Oh, it's Cheers.
Hello,
Everyone
readers.
knows my names.
You gotta cut it. We're gonna do it again.
I'm sorry. Did I just ruin everything? Oh my god, I already did it. And I only had like 2 sips of whiskey and I did it. I'm sorry.
You ruined absolutely nothing. By the way, I'm saving that so I can drop it in at the end. So give me a second. Let me export that.
I mean, I was about to start singing. Everybody knows your name.
Super. There we go. Save MP3.
I forgot to tell William, this is a serious podcast.
Super serial. Super serial.
What's my character's motivation, as your discussion was last time? I know the setting, but is anyone motivated? Characters just sitting on couches.
Smoking pipes.
Yeah, smoking pipes, eating Cheetos.
Right.
All right. We ready? Take
Mostly.
2?
Yes.
Mostly. Got it.
Hello, readers. Welcome to 20 Questions with Your Favorite Author, where we ask authors important questions like, why would you agree to be on this podcast? I'm Kelly Lynn Colby, Editorial Director at Cursed Dragon Ship Publishing. Our guest this week is William Galaini, writer of Multifaceted Conflicts and Catnapper. After marrying his college sweetheart, writing became his vehicle to pull his life together. 6 novels, 4 cats, 40 pounds, and 1 son later, you now can find him publishing games and novels with Evolved Publishing. If he's not your favorite now, he will be after. Welcome, William. How are you?
I am good. How are you, madam?
Not bad, not bad. We're going to have some fun tonight.
Oh, no.
After the prosecutorial questions.
Yes.
Yes.
Make sure to pronounce them correctly.
Right, we're going to get to those too. Let's see. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Let's see. Who else do we have on here? Oh, we have Wolf of the Silver Cross is on. Hello, hello, hello. And I think we said hi to everyone else. We've got Kevin and the moms and Jenny and Josh and all kinds of awesome people. So thank you so much for being here. Is that me going in and out safe, or are we good? Nope. He's silent now. He doesn't want to talk.
You should
Yay,
be.
Jessica's
You sound
here.
good.
Okay, good. All right. So, see, we're professional production here, William.
No, it's fine. Recovery is what matters most.
That's right. We're polished, totally set. Let's see. Oh, we've got Pan Parrot Page. What is it?
Pan Parrot?
I know, Pan Parrot Page. I wanted to say pampered, but it's not quite pampered. Pampered page?
What's on page 26? Because
I
remember...
really want to look up all my books and see what's on page 26.
We're reading in 7th grade, Pillars of the Earth, and page 76 stood out in my young mind.
Oh.
I learned a lot from Ken Follett's page 76 of that book. Mm-hmm.
And now we all want to ask the question, what's on page 76 of that book?
Look for the hardcover edition.
In what language? I mean, come on, let's be specific.
Oh, English.
Oh, okay, just checking.
Yeah, exactly, kid. Exactly. Yeah, it was. I read that in class too. I was like, oh. So, thank you, reading.
Oh my.
New worlds indeed.
The things you learn. Man, it's been so long since all I remember is stone cutting. See, I've forgotten all the good stuff. All right, that's where my boring mind goes. So, question. We've got our hard-hitting first question. Let's see how you handle this one. Are you ready?
Okay.
Where do you get your ideas?
Oh my gosh. Well, an amalgam of things. First off, there's this. Whiskey's an assist. Honestly, a lot of times I'll read literature or explore other books, and I basically just stand on what others have done previously. Trampling Land of Woe is basically a steampunk Dante's Inferno. So if not for the Divine Comedy, it never would have taken on this look. But also, questions is basically where a lot of my story ideas come from. Like, what if, or I wonder if we could do this or that. What would it be like to try and legitimately colonize Venus? It's 10 times our air pressure. It's 500 degrees. What would that be like, and what would that do to the psyche long term? What would highly intelligent bacteria be like? And so that becomes a whole story. Mm-hmm. So things of that nature. Just questions mostly. I get my ideas from questions.
And we answer them with pure logic and no imagination at all, right?
The more you can trace my question to a logical conclusion, I feel the better it is. But you're absolutely right. You never let that get in the way of narrative.
Good story.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Uh-huh. That's right. Logic is for, other things. Not story writing. Until your editor gets a hold of it. Then they tell you all about logic.
Well, so what I feel is like whatever logic you want to presenting to the reader has to have internalized your rule set of logic. And the logic methods of the characters have to follow what characters would typically follow, so it's not too left field. If that makes sense.
Right. Oh, it does.
My first
Make up whatever rules you want, but don't break your own rules.
Exactly. And make sure your rules are clear, or at least available.
True. And if you do change them, there better be a good reason for it.
Right. And retcons are impossible. Like I this is a 5-part series I'm doing now, and it got to the point where I had to keep referencing the older books and throw away moments that I was writing in the first book. I realized, that came to bite me hard because now I can't do a bunch of different things.
Oh, no.
So now I've learned to produce basically a wiki for all my settings and worlds. So I have different characters, their motivations, and just how they speak in their inflections, because I want to make sure their dialogue still feels distinct, because I can't keep track of it all here anymore. There's too much.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that first book is thick. So now with 3 out, this is impressive. Yeah. Let's see. Well, before we get to the questions about your books, what is your favorite place to write? Don't be sorry. This is you. You talk about whatever you want.
Favorite place. First off, I'm weird because I can write anywhere. I can write on a sinking ship. I'm fine.
That is a true gift right there,
yeah.
William.
I could have people screaming in the background. No problem. But my favorite place to write is God, this is so... All right, there's just down the street, there's a gas station.
Confession time.
It is confession time. It's Sheetz. It's it's sort of like a step down from Wawa.
Okay.
But they grind the coffee there, and all the little ladies know me, and I have a little corner, and it's me, and then the homeless guy, and the guy who's trying to put his life together with his head in his hands a few seats down. And we just sit there and write, and I've got my headphones in, listen to music while there's a cooking show on where they put like a stick of butter in a pan and bake it or something awful. And I'll write up a storm. I'll do maybe 4,000 words before I get tired at that gas station. Wow. If I'm at home, video games, cats wanting to nap and cuddle, anything can, my willpower is gone. But when I'm at the gas station, what else am I going to do?
I love it.
Right.
And I'm so glad I'm not the only one who has such a hard time writing at home. So thank you for a little validation there. I need.
Oh, it's tough.
Yeah, it's tough for me. So in your Hellbound series, so that's the one we have the pictures up there with Trampling in the Land of Woe being the first one. Mm-hmm. You've created one of the most unique worlds I've ever encountered. And I read the slush pile. Jessica can back me up on this. There's some crazy stuff we read.
And that's cool.
But here's the cool part. The cool part is it works. So you've combined like Greek tragedy with Dante's Inferno, with steampunk machinations, with gay romance. I could keep going. There are so many elements of it. So I'm wondering, how did you manage that balancing act?
Well, the initial start of it was I read some of course, Dante's Inferno in high school, and then I read the rest of the Divine Comedy in college. And I kept thinking that this was clearly, obviously, a Catholic afterlife. Where would people who are Hindu go? Where would people before monotheism be in this afterlife? And Dante glosses over some of that with, the divine souls of purgatory and whatnot, who, the unright or the righteous sinners, I think was what it was called. Depending on the translation. I wound up reading 3 translations of that thing.
Wow.
But yeah. The one that rhymes the best was actually the least accurate translation, so that was kind of sad.
Oh, no. The rhyme was more important to that person.
But the idea is, what if this wasn't... everything, the technology clearly reflected what Dante himself had seen. So what if it took place during World War One? You know, would we start to see some basic industrialization, etc.? And so I moved it up to take place during the Great War, where the gates are getting flooded with this huge influx of people. And so that was a big part of the setting. But like you've noted, you know, if you don't have character motivations to navigate the setting, you just have a setting, and that might as well be a tabletop game book, which is fun, not a story, not a narrative.
Yep, I made that mistake.
Yeah, and I you know, everyone does. So if anyone else here is a new writer, you'll make that mistake too. It's a healthy mistake to make. You don't make any mistakes really in writing; you only make them in publishing. But
that's a really good quote. We should write that one down somewhere.
Once you hit publish, any mistake you've made has been made. But prior to that, you're fine. You can always go back and revise and expand. But I wanted a narrative to carry it, and I felt that Alexander the Great being in the Blood River would be an ideal motivation for Ephestion, his lover and, you know, counterpart, to go and rescue him. And I used that as a tour through the setting. And I didn't do some of what, like with Dante's Inferno, whenever Dante, the writer himself, didn't know how to transition rings, he would just have Dante faint. Like, oh, and he would just fall over, and then he would wake up in some other part of hell. Oh, are we there yet? And so I had to do different things as well to dodge, because some of the transitions are just cumbersome. And a bad movie is people walking in and out of doors, so I wasn't about to write a bad book about people walking in and out of doors. But no, the main, like you said, where the ideas come from was the question, first off, in the setting was, what if the Divine Comedy or that super Catholic setting was moved to a different time period? And number two, what if the story didn't center about Alexander the Great? What if we centered around Ephestion, whom we know a decent amount about, but not as much? So Ephestion's story always appealed to me more. Like, this was the guy who handled, you know, the champions, which was the elite cavalry unit. This is the guy who handled logistics. And he was a good-looking dude from there's more sculptures of him than Alexander, because Alexander kept commissioning him. So I wanted to look at it from Ephestion's perspective.
Well, it's brilliant. I loved it.
Thank you. And I really appreciate it. I really do. Because I remember you reviewing it, one of the first people, and I felt really good. Because I needed, because you know those phases you get in when you're writing? Like, oh, this is a great idea. All right, this is coming together. Wait, does this make any sense? Oh, God, what have I done? Sweet Jesus, is anyone going to read this? So I was in the sweet Jesus, is anyone going to read this stage?
Yeah, it's scary. But no, it was awesome. And I'll have to say, it's time for the second one to come out, and I haven't read it yet. So I'm really looking forward to this. So it looks like this time you're releasing them quickly?
Yes. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3 come out a month apart.
I love it.
Part 4 comes out in the fall, and then 5 comes out in the beginning of next year of 2022. And 5 is it. 5's done. It's
wrapped it up.
End. But the next one is Boudica as the main character. And so what I did was, because the main story arc of Ephestion, I feel, finds a meaningful conclusion at the end of the first book, I go to the different characters for each of their arcs in the same setting. Because the setting had a lot of juice to mine, but it didn't have... I wasn't going to sit there and have a character not learn. I don't think I could write a 7 or 5 part book series about the same character, because they would be too static.
Well, it works. Yeah, I mean, it does the whole arc. I think that's also why I didn't pick up book 2. So that's the other problem, though, right?
Oh,
I didn't pick up book 2 right away, because it's very satisfying.
It was concise, right? And I try to do that with each of the books about a different person. That each of the book is about their arc.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait to pick it up. It's funny, because when I was looking, because I do some research before this, right? So when I looked and I saw that it was Boudica, that's of the Iceni, right? That's how you say it, Iceni?
Right. Yep.
You know, I had never even heard of her until I love that show with Josh Gates in it, and he did a whole show about her.
I'm going to
the Expedition Unknown.
Josh Gates.
Yeah, it's Expedition Unknown. He does an entire thing with her. It's so cool. It's
really.
Oh my gosh. And I love Josh. He's wonderful. And so I watch anything he does, but he does all these history things, right? So I've learned so much by watching his show, and he went all in it, talked all about her. So now I'm reading her in your book. I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to read this now.
Too. Yeah. And part of the problem is I had to go to archaeological journals of people looking for her military campaign against the Romans as she pushed south, because a lot of what we have in her clearly is through the Roman filter. And the two predominant historians that wrote about her, one was very pro-Rome, Rome for Romans, women
Yep, we
suck.
talked about
And
that.
the other one, yeah, good. And the other one was very like, well, Rome really needs to expand and acknowledge other societies because that's what makes Rome strong, etc. So there's two radically different things.
Mhm.
Then when I went into reading a lot of the plays that came out over like between maybe 1100 to 1400 in England specifically, championing her as the first queen of England, if a female was on the throne in England, the play would be about Boudica and esteem Boudica. If there's a male on the throne, she would be a minor character and sometimes even a villain. And it's just so there was so little concrete thing to hang on to. Like I had to make up her daughter's names because the names attributed to them came from one of the plays. No one knows the names of her daughters. So I had a lot of room I could wiggle around on, and that was sort of cheating as me as a writer, because that way if I wasn't railroaded into any particular set of concrete facts, I could wiggle around a good amount. And that's what I did with Boudica. I made sure it served the story. Because in the end, brilliant, charismatic leader who ruled for about a year over a group of really unruly fighters, and she lost
They
against...
followed her to war, man.
Followed her to war, but they lost against a very small force. And I wanted to make sure that her story is about how she copes with that. That she had Rome on the ropes and lost to 13,000 Praetorians.
It's incredible. Yeah, the chat is also talking. They love that show too. And as much as you love history, which I think it's obviously, I mean, you must love history, right? You research.
I love narrative, so
right?
history's a part of it. About maybe 2/3 of what I read is just history.
That's fantastic. Yes, you should definitely watch Expedition Unknown then.
So I don't. What is it on? I don't have TV.
I want to say it's Discovery something.
Okay, maybe if it's on. I have Netflix. Maybe I'll see if it's. Or maybe they'll stream it or something. I don't know. See, most of the stuff I get, I buy. Also, for those of you who are writers in here, call people. I had a bunch of Maori characters. I called in New Zealand the Maori Institute. I have an Aboriginal character, and I talked to someone down in Australia, a women's Aboriginal institute, and they'll answer the phone and they'll love to talk to you. I mean, I talked to an old crotchety guy about Boudica from, he called her Bethug. He was in Wales. And so, yeah, people will answer the phone. They'll be delighted. They'll get back to you. They'll share their expertise. So,
it's fun, right? You find that doors open when you tell them you're a writer?
No.
No!
Absolutely not. Doors don't open from that. They usually like to hear that you're doing research, or I'm from this university. Instead, I'm like, hey, I'm a nothing writer. I'm in my basement right now, day drinking. Can I ask you some questions to validate my dumbass narrative, because I want to do a revision version of your historical person who's near and dear to your heart so I could profit off them? You got 20 minutes? That's usually how it goes. Actually,
and it works every time.
It works every time. And they're great. These conversations go for like 3 or 4 hours. They'll call you back. They'll send you so much good material. I literally have sketches from Boudica's, what they thought was her township where she came from. The sketches of where the actual stonework was from the halls and from the different homes and whatnot. It's great. Just wonderful.
Well, you just convinced Kevin. He just bought your book. You're going to love.
Oh, my God. Oh, great. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, seriously. I hope William comes to DragonCon. We talked about that because you two should meet. You two would really get along.
I love DragonCon, but I need a room to hide in on occasion.
Yes.
Because one can only take so much flop sweat.
Yes. Nope. We feel you there.
Yeah.
Rooms definitely are required. Let's see. Somebody spell Boudica. It's Boudica. Sorry, somebody asked.
Like
you typed it in. Thank you. Good job.
There's like a bunch of different spellings of it depending on the pronunciation, given that the language.
The first one's the most common, though.
Well, yeah. The first one's most common. The language predates written English, so.
That's true.
Yeah.
So it's been passed down by generations, and you know how logical English is when it comes to spelling, anyways.
Yeah, just to give you an idea of how weird Boudica as a name is, Boudica eventually translated to the term victory, which translated to Victoria. So Queen Victoria is named after a strenuous series of word shifts after Boudica. So we get the word victory and Victoria from Boudica. So
that is so cool. I had no idea.
Yeah. So she and some people will credit her as being the first queen or the first even monarch sometimes of the unified England.
Well, her part of England.
Yeah, because if you go to Wales, don't say that. You go to Ireland, don't say anything.
Oh, don't even mention it.
No.
Let's see. So, what project that's in progress or not started are you most excited about?
Oh, I'm working on a science fiction book series. It's just pure sci-fi, where it's a hyper intelligent bacteria that is invading the periphery of Earth and wants to get to Earth itself for its ocean life. And the more of it can propagate, the more intelligent it becomes. So
kind of like a hive mind kind of thing?
Yes, but it doesn't use we as pronouns. When it eventually does master managing speech, it uses I. And part of this comes from, there's a Denzel Washington movie called The Fallen.
Okay.
Does anyone remember that rated R 90s schlocky film? There was a scene where the bad guy is a spirit that jumps from person to person, and Denzel Washington's on the street, and as he's talking to a little girl, she walks by and touches someone as the thing jumps into another person, and then he continues a conversation with them. And it bounces from person to person to person. And I always thought it would be interesting if you could actually have a conversation with an antagonist who was always doing that, not just for that singular scene. That was really cool. And from that stemmed a science fiction concept of a hyper-intelligent bacteria that utilized subspace to communicate with its own colonies.
Interesting.
And everyone's networked. So if it's infected a person, it will all see what that person sees at all times. So it's an apex predator. It discovers, this species on this planet Earth is starting to become capable of space travel. I need to go and stop it before it becomes a threat to me down the road. And that's what it does. It just goes around and smites out any intelligence.
Other races.
Yeah, to make sure it stays at the top.
Huh. Sounds very human of these bacteria.
And my main character is Sikh, because I didn't see Sikhism really represented a lot in science fiction. So I wanted to, she's a Sikh young woman. And so I wound up going to the Sikh Gurudwara for a couple of months. I'm still friends with a number of them. If you haven't gone to Gurudwara and you want to just see what it's like, I strongly recommend it. They're a non-proselytizing religion. They don't seek converts. They just seek to give you food and let you hang out.
Who can argue with that?
Wonderful people.
Yeah.
And everyone was armed. Like, everyone carries knives. Old ladies, all of them. Everyone's got a knife. And it was like, okay, I feel incredibly safe, honestly. And they were just delightful people. Best mustaches you'll ever see.
I'm starting to think you became a writer just as an excuse to research things you don't know about.
Yeah, it's a complete excuse.
I'm going to feed my hobby like this.
Yeah.
Wolf of the Silver Cross does remember the Fallen movie. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. I'm impressed. I mean, it was okay. It was, as my wife likes to say, it was is it just called Fallen, not The Fallen? Okay, Fallen was a Deep Space Nine video game. Thank you. But yeah, as my wife likes to say, it was the okayest. So it was the okayest movie, but that one scene stuck out with me.
It just made sense to you.
Yeah.
It hit home. Let's see. What have you read or watched lately that you've really enjoyed?
I'm going to come off like a basic bitch, but I enjoyed WandaVision.
Oh, there's nothing basic about that. I don't care what anyone says. That was incredible. You're laughing, you're crying. I was hysterical at the end. You've got everything. Every single emotion goes through that. No, that's a good choice.
I've enjoyed MCU. It's a very good comfort show to me. It'll flirt with difficult topics without depressing me on them.
Right.
So it's very easy watching. Falcon and Winter Soldier I thought was wonderful as well. Oh, no spoilers? I'm sorry. What I will say is, and this is evident in the first 3 episodes that were released at once for WandaVision, was each episode is a different miniature sliver subgenre of sitcom. And it was great taking that tour and seeing, there's The Facts of Life. There's Full House.
The Van Dyke Show.
The Van Dyke Show. All these wonderful little nods of stuff I used to watch as a kid at Nick at Night and whatnot. And the way that anchors into the narrative as a comfort is very impressive, and I very much enjoyed it. It was just enjoyable watching.
Yep. Don't worry, Jessica, no spoilers. That's the beginning of it. Even all the previews, you know that there's a whole bunch of sitcoms in them. So it was just really, really well done.
Yeah, really well done.
I 100% agree. Especially like you said, for us who were raised on the TV.
Right.
So These things we understood.
Someone who loved television in general was very much involved in that. It was very interesting. It was fun to see.
Yes. Oh, yay. Thanks for the bits, Riley. Riley B. Music gave us some bits. Thanks, man. Let's see. Where was I? I had a question. Kevin, I'm going to get to your question later. You're going to have to remind me later because I have that question, and he's hilarious. So don't answer his question yet. You'll see why later. Let's see. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Oh. I mean, while I have obvious preferences for like biomes and cities and clearly, governmental structures, like I would rather be here than say like Myanmar.
Good choice. Yes.
Usually it's the people that makes the place.
That's true.
It really does. So wherever, honestly, here, I'm incredibly happy here. I love Scotland though. Love Scotland. And part of it is that, I'm a good chunk of me is Scottish, so when I went to Scotland, everyone was pasty and gross like me. This is great. and just like all these rolling hills and no
Were they all
trees.
self-deprecating too?
Yeah, everyone was self-deprecating. Everything smelled like burnt peat. It was like, oh, this is fantastic. I love it. My people. All the food was
whiskey with
all
no
the food
E.
was boiled into oblivion. It was wonderful. I fit right in. Everyone cooks like I do. I have a kilt, and I love my kilt.
Yeah, Pamper page 26 said he has a kilt. I'm like, I remember you wore to Dragon Con. We saw you in it.
Any excuse to wear that kilt. Because
really?
Whatever's wrong with me from the waist up is not much I can do about it. But man, I got great legs. But yeah, so the kilt, all about the kilt. But yeah, I loved Scotland. My sister was incredibly sweet to take me to Scotland, and the whole family. I could change. Maybe I'll travel different places. But yeah, honestly, I'm always happy pretty much where I am. Except South Florida. Except South Florida. Sorry, but fuck you, South Florida. Yeah, when you walk outside and your shirt immediately absorbs about a quart of water, that's too humid for me.
So Houston wouldn't be for you either.
I didn't mind Houston, but I was only there for a few months during the right time. I missed summer.
Okay. Gotcha.
I dodged the summer bullet.
By the way, the chat was about to be offended. Then they were like, "No, that's fair."
Sorry, Florida. Come on.
That's fair. We can't argue with that one.
I did like the rain though. I liked the daily summer rain. For an hour, the sky turns black and just that was really cool.
We like that too. Like 4:00 every afternoon, you knew it was going to rain. Yep, I kind of like that part. Let's see. Yeah, Kevin says typical sci-fi writer. Where do you want to live? Immediate jumps to biomes.
Yeah.
Wait, that's not a normal word.
That I've got a 5th grade education. Must impress. Yeah, biomes.
Yes. No, you'd be surprised how many people with college educations would not have said biomes.
Well, a lot gets lost in the shuffle.
Oh, it does. Well, we talked about, we hung out at Dragon Con and we played Firefly, the board game, late into the. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. And did we ever finish, or do we just say?
We did. We got really close and we were like passing out. It was because it was late. It had nothing to do with alcohol.
Yeah,
and we were like, we should probably go to bed.
I do remember Irish whiskey being involved.
Yeah, there was a little bit. I might have carried a flask around that had lots of water in it. I swear. So what is your current favorite tabletop game? Notice I say current. You don't have to tell me favorite of all time.
Yeah, no. Funny enough, the current is still my favorite of all time. It's called Rococo, and I'll spell it in here.
Okay.
Hands down, my favorite.
I'm going to spell it out loud for the people that are on here on the audio. It's Rococo. Okay, go ahead.
Basically, Rococo is each of you is a competing dressmaker in Louis XIV's Sun Court. Is it the 14th or the 16th? I think it's the 14th. Was Louis the Sun Court, and it
lost
comes
his
down.
Head, right? So it probably is 14th.
It probably is 14th. So it comes down to everyone's competing to make the prettiest dress they can, and you choose and compete over where that person is positioned at the ball, what floor they're on, how close to the king they get. You also compete against different types of silks and patterns and threads. And it is a magnificent management game where you're managing all your resources and your employees while trying to screw other people out of patterns, and it gets cutthroat. The things you'll hear third party, like if someone walked into a room while Coke was going on, you'll hear like, "I'm going to cut your throat. You stole my green silk." I mean, just it gets great.
That sounds like the French Court to me.
It is exactly like it. It is such a good game. It was recommended to me by a friend named Darwin, and ever since then, it is absolutely my favorite.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is so good. In fact, I'm going to, in the chat, I will link it on Board Game Geek, which is usually where I go to just to read reviews for games. But Rococo's my absolute favorite, and if I can fool any poor sap into learning it, I am always down for it. Hey, come over for about 4 hours. I'll show you this game. Oh, no, it's not too hard.
Leave your weapons at home. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, Dave put it in there for you, too. Look at that. Dave's got your back.
Thank you, Don.
Yeah, Dave's awesome. Let's see. So that's fun. We're going to have to try that one. We're looking for a new game. We've been playing a lot of Ascension lately, quite frankly, because I haven't won yet. So I can't stop playing a game until I figure it out. So
yeah, I haven't played Ascension yet, but I've seen it around a lot.
I kind of like that one. Our daughter beats our behind at it every time. So somehow or another, it works with her brain.
Liam, our son, enjoys Isle of Cats, and we enjoy playing that. It's basically cat Tetris on boats.
That sounds fun.
It makes perfect sense. If you see it, you're like, oh, okay, cat Tetris. And the Fallout board game that was done by Fantasy Flight had 3 different basically patches through expansions. So it's ridiculously convoluted because Fantasy Flight. But it's very good. It's a good game once you figure out how to play the damn thing.
One thing at a time. But that's every game, right? You got to figure out how to play it. And then I don't like to play it once. I'm like, well, now I know how to play.
Right.
Now you need to play a couple more times.
Yeah.
Right.
Play it and then you explore it. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Exactly. Figure out how does this one work? Let's see. If you could meet any one idol, who would it be?
Is it wrong that the first thing that popped in my head was Billy? But I don't think that's the idol you meant.
I mean, if he's your idol, it could totally work.
Oh, man. It used to be Asimov, but I heard that he was, at the very least, sexually inappropriate with a number of women that he'd worked with or encountered. So now I couldn't.
It's too hard to keep learning new things about our idols.
It's important. I'm glad for it. I'm glad. I'd rather know than not.
Kevin recommends the golden calf. I told you two would get along.
That's pretty good, Kevin. That's pretty good. Man, okay, this is going to be a cop-out to some extent, but I do have an answer.
Okay.
I tend to idolize actions more so than people. Like, I don't have heroes, I have heroics that I admire. Like, even when it comes to Abraham Lincoln, who's one of those greatly esteemed people, like, I see him as a person, I admire the heroics he did, but I don't necessarily view him as a paragon of humanity or as someone to be a hero of. But if I were to pick one individual that I could meet, and they can be dead?
Sure.
I would want to pick someone that I could really learn about and really dive into and explore. And I know idol's definitely not the term. But I would really like to find the real concrete historical Judas. And
be interesting.
Just sit down and be like, okay,
let's get all the sides.
Yeah, what the fuck happened? And honestly, part of it would be I'd be curious to see his reaction to, do you realize your position in history? And then we would talk about different interpretations of him, like this wonderful comic book called Judas that my wife has. It's magnificent. Or Last Temptation of Christ, or the Cult of Judas. We could talk about, like, did you have any idea that any of this shit would happen to you? So God. And of course, like, if you were to snippet this thing, like, Galaini loves Judas and idolizes Judas, and oh, shit. Yeah, but no, it would.
That's not what I heard. I heard curiosity.
If I would reach back, it would be more to probe a mysterious person in history, because their inadvertent impact on history. Yeah, it would have to be Judas because I have a ton of questions.
That's a good question. I like it. That was a new question. You did a great answer. I'm impressed. Let's see. After the last few years, the concept of time travel sounds rather appealing, in my opinion. You explored a little bit of that in The Line, your novel, The Line. A group of people use a space station stuck between time to observe history until an intruder decides time is his to do with as he pleases. So what sparked your interest in time travel?
It was the paradox that became very apparent to me very quickly was that if you traveled back in time to assassinate Hitler, you couldn't travel back in time to assassinate Hitler because there would therefore be no Hitler. Also, as awful as it is and dispassionate as it sounds, you would be stealing the opportunity for the world to defeat Hitler. And from, what Hitler had done, a lot of vigor and pride stemmed from it, especially among the Jewish population and whatnot. They have Israel, etc. So my thought was that even if you could time travel, why would you ever do so? And I found it almost ethically abhorrent even to pursue the thought of inventing such a thing. So what I did was I treated time travel as an observation station. And given that you couldn't actually alter your own timeline, they decide to evaluate a very similar timeline that's so similar there's no discernible difference. So they could tell what actually happened that was likely in their own timeline and what will happen that will likely happen in their timeline. And then that's when I have fun with it, where one of the time traveling researchers finds out their future self is an enemy altering the line, and they all turn on each other, trying to figure out who the future self is. And it also plays into a part, like we often talk about how our biggest adversary was our younger self, our past self. Like, oh, if I wasn't such an idiot and married so-and-so. But with the line, I thought it would be absolutely...
No, Zafo never says that.
Sorry. I hit something. But with the line, it was, how absolutely terrifying would it be if you knew your future self was going to be a monster? How would you prepare for that? How would you try and avoid that? Or would you just succumb to it, etc.? So that's what I tried to play with.
Fascinating. Yeah, Wolf says he loves that book.
Yeah, I thank you. At the first pass at that, Wolf, I got to like page 80, and I was starting it on Earth and slowly building up to them building Janice, and it was just boring. So I just, bam, put them on Janice. There's a version of the line that's all first person. And that was odd because it told the reader everything. So instead I decided to make Mary my protagonist. I displayed her in third person to try and remove you from her a bit. Because she does have light sociopathy. Not that that's a negative thing. A lot of sociopaths are absolutely vital to society. They're good people. As much as there's a negative stigma around...
Or at least not harmful people.
Right. As much as there's a negative stigma around sociopathy, if you're going to be a surgeon cutting into a child's heart, you have to be able to disassociate to some level. So sociopathy has phenomenal uses. And, of course, I learned this from being a medic in the Army, that being able to detach is really important. But so that's why I tried to do it in third person. And also, I was writing a woman who is older and smarter than me. And it felt easier for me as a writer to write her in third person, so I didn't have to be a parent on everything.
Nice.
Lack of confidence is why I went with third person. But there is a first person version of the line that is saved on my drive. It's just not as good.
Well, good job. I look forward to reading that one, too. That was on my list.
It's
I didn't even know
also an
about that
audiobook.
one. I found it. I was like, dude, how did I miss this?
Yeah, it's my bestseller. It's an audiobook. So if you guys have Audible, it's free. With Audible's whatever subscription. Alison Vohler's the actress who does it. She's hilarious. She's brilliant. She's wonderful.
Awesome. Love our audiobooks. Let's see. If you could travel back in time and change one thing about what you had for dinner, what would it be? I mean, look, you're expecting something profound on this broadcast? No.
No.
We
The fact that I knew exactly my answer said it all. I was dating a girl. I was like 29. Don't judge. She was 20, and she made pierogi.
Okay.
And we ate the pierogi,
Mhm.
and it was okay.
Mhm.
And I got so sick. And I don't think it was her fault. I don't think it was the pierogi's fault. She was a fine cook, good Polish dish. But the pierogi did not get along with me at all, and it rammed through me like what's his name, the giant battering ram hitting Gondor's gates. Man, it just on fire. Pow.
No.
I was sick laying in the hallway out of the bathroom because I couldn't go all the way. So she brought me a portable DVD player and said, "Do you want to watch a movie while you're sitting there?" And she was very nice. And I'm like, "Oh, you know what? Yeah. While I'm laying here, distract me from this horror show that is me firing out both ends."
Sickness, yeah.
And so the movie I watched was The Machinist with Christian Bale. If any of you, yeah, Grant, thank you, Kevin, for winning at Nerd. The Machinist is about a man who starves himself almost to death and goes crazy. And it was probably not the best movie to watch when I was ferociously sick from pierogi. So yes, I would travel back in time, not eat the pierogi.
Movie or not eat the pierogi?
I'd still watch the movie. The movie's great. For those of you who hate yourselves, watch The Machinist. It's phenomenal. But I would totally go back and still watch The Machinist. But I would definitely back away from those pierogi. Still can't eat pierogi.
That's funny.
Yeah, I just can't. And that was, oh my gosh, that was like 13 years ago. Yeah.
No, I can imagine though. Something makes you that sick, it leaves a permanent mark on your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. That's hilarious. You were able to do Back in Time and Dinner, and you made it one story. That's how talented Galaini is right here. Y'all getting that? You need to get that. I'm impressed. So speaking of food, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Oh my gosh. I'm more of a sherbet guy. Does that count, or do I need to go with ice cream?
Well, I guess sherbet's fine. I don't know.
If I were to go with ice cream, Alden's makes a really good black chocolate chip. And by black, I mean chocolate chip. Like it's fantastic.
Chocolate, double.
Chocolate. And normally I don't do chocolate, but Alden does a really good job with it.
Nice.
Yeah, that would have to be it. I got no other interesting answer. Just Alden's chocolate chip.
That's perfect. We're taking a poll, so we just have to know. But hold on. Now I have to find Kevin's question from earlier because he wants to know, what is a hyper-intelligent bacteria's favorite ice cream?
Funny enough, it becomes a character, and as the series progresses, as the main character starts developing a means with which to fight this bacteria, it becomes scared, and it pleads for its life because something else has chased it here. But funny enough, it always struggles in those moments. So like she is at a cafeteria and notices some people are eating without any type of relish. They're eating without any type of enjoyment. And she starts to suspect that those are bacterially infected people that are a part of this organism trying to blend in. And that's how she picks up on them. They don't enjoy food, they just eat it, and they don't enjoy smell. So if there are flowers or nice perfume, if they don't say anything or notice it or walk right through it, that's one of her tells that that person is actually an infected agent of this larger organism. But yeah, if
so they don't like ice cream, is what you're saying.
It doesn't like or dislike. It just, that is too small of a registered stimuli to meet its higher goal. So it just doesn't even register. Later on, when she becomes closer to the thing, she starts giving it lessons on how to pass because she realizes she needs to preserve it as well. And then we get into that a bit.
Fascinating. Yes, Wolf says food is meant to be enjoyed. We totally agree.
That's what I'm saying. That's how I gained 40 pounds here. Huh?
Kevin says that's exactly how the South detected Northern infiltrators. They ate their grits without any enjoyment.
Wait, is that actually true?
There's no way.
Because, I mean, I have grits with like jelly and jam, and I'm immediately pointed out as a northerner.
Yeah, that's not a butter,
my
butter
wife,
and salt.
Yeah, exactly. My wife does
cheese.
grits, butter, and salt. It's like, oh, so you make grits worse. And
no,
that's
that
how
makes them delicious. What do you put on corn? Corn on the cob. What do you put on corn on the cob?
Nothing. I just eat the corn.
You don't put butter and salt in your corn on the cob?
No, it's corn. Why am I going to ruin it with flavor?
Oh, that makes sense.
Remember, Scottish, we boiled everything. Like, it's chicken, boil it. Potato, boil it.
I'm
Carrot.
starting to think there's been a bacterial invasion and I'm not enjoying food.
It took over all of England. I mean, how many times have you seen an England restaurant? Like, welcome to our great English cuisine, and they just open a pot with boiled food and squirrel.
I was gonna say they call them pubs and they just serve beer and we don't notice the food. It's fine.
See, actually, I do like grits. Yeah, burn the witch. I do like grits, but I like them plain because, again, British, no sense of taste.
It's madness, William.
It is. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. My gosh, we've talked so much and had so much fun. We have to do a fire round. Are you ready? Quick question.
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That's the fun part. That's why we like to do this.
Apologize is my default.
I'm trying not to waste your time. I could be here all night. It's pretty bad. All right. So, what is the first thing you put in your grocery cart as an impulse buy?
Milk.
What part of your daily routine is an absolute must?
I have to go upstairs and take a dump.
I don't know why you're laughing. I thought it was going to be bad. No, that works. Okay.
No, it's just like, no, that was when I was a teenager. No.
Okay, that's right.
I had to go upstairs and be like, no one's going to knock on the door. No one's going to bother me. Leave me alone. I'm going to check the news. This is it. In the Army, we call that the morning glory.
Morning glory. And what is your least favorite chore around the house?
Folding laundry. I'll wash it, but if it could fold itself, that'd be great.
Yeah, agreed. Coffee or tea?
Oh God. It depends, man. If it's Ethiopian, then definitely coffee. Ethiopian coffee is fantastic. Typically, I'd go for tea though.
Excellent. And what do you hope? Oh, this isn't a quick one. Tough. I'm going to ask anyways. What do you hope readers get from your work?
I hope that they ask the same questions I did.
Oh, clever. Clever.
They ask the same questions I did, and I hope that they reach conclusions that I hadn't thought of or explored. Mm-hmm. I want to engage.
I love it. Well, you engaged with us tonight. You're amazing, William. So where can all of your new fans find you and your work?
WilliamLJGalaini.com. The LJ, you can Google me and find it. I'm on Amazon right now. This book series is at Evolved Publishing, which is a great publisher. There might be stuff coming from other publishers in the future. But yeah, just give me a Google and you'll find me easily.
Excellent. So now, after you read William's work, please make sure to review it. It's the best thank you can give your author. And then also, please review this podcast wherever it is that you get podcasts. And you can also follow us on Twitch, or you can subscribe on YouTube. And thank you very much for coming. Next week, we have Marty C. Lee. So that will be fun to interview him. And we also want to thank our subscribers. So we have William as a new subscriber. Thank you very much, William. We've got Dave. And who am I missing, Safo? There's one more. Who's our other subscriber? Safo's furiously typing.
That was me. I'm sorry.
8 of 9.
8 of 9. That's it. Thank you.
Is that the first
that
came after 7 of 9?
No, I think that's why. I think that's why they're 8 of 9 on purpose.
How many hot Borgs were in 9?
9
well,
of them.
At least 9, right? I mean,
well,
or do they just progressively get
hotter?
Right.
Yeah, see? So we all need to meet 8 of 9 in person.
Questions that
9 of 9 is just sleep pigs.
we have to explore.
Yeah.
All right, roll the credits.